So tonight, myself and Will Taylor are very fortunate to be joined by Mark Boyns, founder of Opening Up, who aims to promote good mental health and wellbeing in cricket and in general life. Tonight, we'll be asking Mark what we can do as a cricket club and as an individual to champion good mental health. Good evening, Mark.
Evening, gents. Thanks for having me along.
Good to see you again, Mark. You all right?
Yeah, good. Can't complain. Getting a bit close to cricket, maybe. Touch wood.
Yeah.
Mark, should we start by just, could you address because you came to give a talk to Lindham Cricket Club last year. Some of our members might be new and they might have missed that talk. Is that if you quickly give us a quick overview of what the aims are behind Opening Up, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Opening Up Cricket started in 2014 and the intention is to promote mental well-being, so to look at ways in which we can look after our mental health, how we can improve it, how we can make it something which is a benefit to our game and our lives in general, but also it's there to promote suicide prevention. So we're also looking at ways in which we can look after our friends and teammates to avoid the reasons why the campaign was set up. So it's a mental health campaign, but there's a real positive slant to it. So we're being proactive rather than just reactive.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you for that. We'll move on to our first question. So is there any proactive measures that Lindham Cricket Club can put in place to promote positive mental well-being in and around the cricket club?
Well, yeah, there's a heap of things that people can try. I think the most important thing in a club setting is just having the intent to do it. Everyone can pick different things, but if we're able to confirm with our players and our members that something we take seriously, so advertise that fact, and also make as much of a play as we can to have the facility for people to talk about mental health. And of course, our great route to it in cricket is through the positives, is through the mental skills and the things which we're aware of in the game that we need. A lot of what we do is between. So looking at that firstly and perhaps foremost to work on ways in which mental skills can be developed. But that then starts a conversation about mental health in general. So that's got to be the main thing, having the intent and publicising that, saying we take this seriously, we want to work on it, get different people's ideas. And then from there, things kind of take care of themselves because we've got so many resources out there that can be tapped into, but making a start with it. I speak to so many people who say that they're interested in this area, that they think it's important, and then it's just a case of giving them a nudge to get them actually to put that into practice. So that would be the thing I would say to anyone, is to just start.
Yeah, and you talked there about being quite proactive in your approach. So could you give an examples where we could be quite proactive, as in, do you think it might be, what examples could we put in place? Maybe could we take a friend out for coffee and have a chat with them in that instant, or something similar?
Yeah, that's a perfect example. People will probably be watching The Test on Amazon Prime, good use of the lockdown time. And in that, Mitchell Marsh talks about how in the Australian squad, on a very long tour of England last year, he made it his business to say to everyone that each morning he's going to go out for a walk and he's going to finish it with a cup of coffee. And anyone who wants to join him, to have a bit of company, to talk about whatever, is more than welcome. And that's a way of team building. Like, we're interested in team building and team spirit in sport. That is connected to mental health. It's a very good protective factor against difficulties, and also a way which we can thrive. So embedding that culture could be it. Encouraging people to make connections and links. And we do that in cricket, don't we? We've got a big culture around people staying around for drinks after the game. You know, it could also just be extended into saying, well, it doesn't have to be a beer. It could be something where we have a cup of coffee, or we just do something where we connect with people a bit further. But the other things, it's worth people looking at some of the techniques that are employed in elite level sport, which help people be able to deal with stresses, strains, and also maximise their performance. So we could look at trying things out, if someone does use an app or someone tries something like meditation or gratitude, then actually saying, hey, team environment, I've given this a go, it's really useful. So normalising that conversation and promoting it is the way forward.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you just touched on there, Mark, about how different processes for different people. Is there any sort of specific self-care processes that you would put yourself through on a day-to-day basis, or a match day, or anything that you can sort of relate to that you've realised over a period of time that really works for you?
Yeah, I think a couple of the basics I would look at, I think, would apply to everyone. And then I'll mention a couple of things that work for me that people might try, might not work for them. But definitely the simple thing of making sure you have time to just switch off from what you're doing. So if you've had a busy day at work, or you've had a really hectic day of cricket, just having that separation and giving your mind a chance to wind down and switch off and not be on all the time. And people can have loads of ways of switching off, whether it's just putting the phone away and watching telly, or might just be switching everything off and having some time away reading a book. But of course, cricket itself can be that time away from what we're doing with other stuff. So that's another positive of cricket. So I would say, yeah, I always try to make sure that I have my last hour of my day and my first hour of my day are nothing to do with work or anything I've got to do, just for me. And people might feel that they don't have that luxury, they don't have enough time. Well, I'd say at least give it a go. It might not, it might work for you. You might have that time, but also to get enough rest and enough time with other people. It'd be easy when you're busy to think, oh, I've got to just plod on my own, but actually taking that time to connect with someone, whether it's on the phone or when we're out of lockdown in person, then that's really important as well. So I think that would be across the board for everyone to think about those things. But for me, things that have worked over these last, say, 3 years or so have been practicing mindfulness, having 10, 15 minutes a day where I don't have anything else. I'm just concentrating on looking after my mind. Use an app like Headspace, or now, because I've been doing it for a while, self-guided. And also keeping a journal, which years ago I'd have thought, keeping a journal is something that my teenage cousin would do. But actually, it's a fantastic tool for planning, for your goals and tracking what you're doing, but also getting some of the stuff out of your head onto paper so that you can move forward. So they're the two big things that have really made a big impact on positive mental health for me.
I think they're sort of really important, obviously, at the minute, especially with us, like you say, with us being in this lockdown period. But just the app that you touched on there, Headspace. I mean, I've been told by many people, get Headspace, it's really good. And I was, a bit sort of skeptical. And a couple of weeks ago, I thought, I was struggling a bit, with work and, just stuck at home. And I think, again, you were saying the first hour and the last hour of your day, I think people who are working from home may struggle with that at the minute because, you're waking up and you're at work, and then you finish work, but you don't leave work because that's all of a sudden your safe haven of home. So it's quite a crossover at the minute, and people might be struggling with that. And I certainly was a couple of weeks ago, and I downloaded Headspace, and it's changed my life. It's just, it's so relaxing, and it just, sends you to bed just in such a good frame of mind, and sleep so much better. So yeah, I can certainly vouch for you on that one.
Yeah, I think the real trick is, it's why I always struggle to try to articulate to people about trying something like Headspace, is that the benefits are so amazing, but you're just trying to get past that thing of people maybe giving it a go. And even when you say, it's only 10 minutes, we create excuses, we think, fit it in. But then when you get people like yourself saying, I've tried it, and wow, it's just made such a difference, you just think, again, I get re-energized. Right, I've got to speak to more people about this. Club setting, if someone had tried it like yourself, Will, it's a pretty much an important part of our team and club culture to let someone know, because it can be really good for them as well.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, even if someone just says, I found a real benefit by doing this, it doesn't have to be using an app or anything else. If we're used to speaking about it, saying what works for you, what works for you, there'll be some people who just won't try Headspace. They just, it won't be in their orbit. But there could be something that someone else says where they go, I feel like I could do that. And that's great because there is something for everyone. And the more we promote that, the more people get these tools that we need.
Yeah.
And just help them when times is more difficult.
Yeah. So just sharing those positive experiences, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll probably go into a bit more of a dual point here, but I think you can see it as a positive as well. This is the next question, is what can players do to overcome disappointment? Obviously, sometimes I think cricket is quite a strange game. You might go 1, 2, 3, 4 games without scoring runs, and that can be quite disappointed, particularly for a young cricketer. But I think sometimes you can learn more in those disappointing periods than you do when you're scoring 100 after 100 after 100 or taking 5 wickets after 5 wickets. But is there anything, particularly for the younger cricketers, what can they do to overcome those disappointing spells and make them better cricketers in the long run, and understand what can they do in those periods, what switches them from, or what can they do to switch onto better performances in the long run?
Yeah, it's something that we all have concerns about, don't we? How do we get out of a bad run of form, or how do we deal with the fact that we've given up our time to play something that's meant to be fun, and you get out the first ball and that doesn't feel that fun? You're fetching the ball from the allotments or whatever's by the ground if you're a bowler. So 3 things I reckon are worth bearing in mind and worth trying. One is to think about you in the context of the game, the whole sport of cricket. And if you're on a bad run, you've got to look at the statistics of even the greats, Smith, Kohli, Williams. Look at how many times they score 50 or more. Look at how many innings they have. And they fail, if that's how we're going to term it, more often than they succeed. And they're the very best. Everyone beneath them is going to find it difficult as well. One of the players that we've done workshops with in the past, county pro of 15 odd years, was saying he looks at his record and he's scored loads of first class hundreds, plenty of success in the game, won the county championship, but most of the time he leaves the crease feeling like he should have done better. What he's done over the years is realise that's how he's going to feel. That's going to happen. It's part of our game. Everyone experiences it. So that might not solve it, but it can make us feel like it's not a unique experience to us and everyone can have struggles with it. The second thing I think that's really important was to connect with why we play the game and to look at our reason why. And that can help get through difficulties. If you know why you play cricket, you know why you love it and why you give it your time to do it, even when you're in a rough run of form, you can actually look at it and think, well, I'm still looking forward to the next game because my luck might turn. I might get it right because I'm enjoying it. And if we can try and place that focus and think about, just got enjoyment is my first focus, then things can follow from that. Virat Kohli, his attitude is that he wants to enjoy it. His famous quote is, the only thing that's changed is I've got 40 grey hairs in my beard, speaking about how he approaches the game. So for Kohli, it's all right, you might say, because he's always getting a big score. But he deals with things the same way, that he enjoys the game. So we've got to try and connect with that as well. And be honest with ourselves, say, why do we play? If it's just for getting hundreds, then maybe we've got to bear in mind that that's going to happen rarely. So we've got to find a way of enjoying it even when we don't. The other thing is, like you touched on, is we learn so much more when things don't go right. So that doesn't mean we have to enjoy it. But what it means is, cricket is so rewarding because it's not a quick fix. It's not about getting it right every single game. But then when we do get the success, we feel much more proud of it because we know we've had to put the hard work in. So if you've got out and you then think, right, I'm going to have to go to work in nets and in training to break something or work on something else, then when it does go right, if you work hard, you increase the chances of it happening, you feel so much better. So for all the lows that you have, just bear in mind that there are going to be highs as well. And if you can stay as balanced as you can in the middle by accepting there'll be good and bad, and that goes a long way to help.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And we took as a club as well. I just want to quickly catch or move on to. Could you first of all give us the definition or difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset? And at Lindham Cricket Club, how could we encourage a growth mindset and resilience within our young players?
Growth mindset is very closely linked to everything we've been talking about. And there's one word that comes to mind for me whenever I think of growth mindset, and that word is yet. So we get a lot of statements that could be just left in a fixed mindset. They change when you put that word yet in. So, for example, if you're saying, I'm not good at playing spin bowling, if you finish that sentence there, that's a fixed mindset, because that's saying there is a statement which cannot be changed. If you just added the word yet on, it becomes a growth mindset. I'm not good at facing spin bowling yet. It recognises that there are things that you could do to improve. And that really comes down to how we approach it. If we're looking at results or we're looking at outcomes as just the final thing and that defines us, then that will be in a fixed mindset. So for a growth one, we're accepting that whatever happens, there's always the opportunity to make improvements and develop. And this can be both with your batting, your bowling, your fielding, but also cricket is a great lesson for us that we can use in the rest of our lives. That we're never the finished product. There's always ways we can improve. Look at the people who train the hardest in the world. Steve Smith hits more balls than anyone. And that's because he realises he's not this gun who's completed cricket. He keeps going. And then at a club level, it's the same, that when we do well, we can still find things to improve on. But crucially, when things aren't going too well, we can work on it there. And one of there's a lot of work's been done, research around growth mindset linked to resilience, about keeping going. And it's all about that kind of flexibility in our minds about not seeing things as just problems, trying to reframe it and look at them as challenges. Thinking this is something I can actually do well in. So rather than going into a game and thinking, oh God, it's a problem that we're playing this team because they're really good, thinking, what a brilliant challenge. You know, we might not win, but what if we did? What a fantastic outcome that could be. And when you start thinking of it like that, it opens up so many possibilities that previously you just don't have a chance of doing. So in terms of resilience and building that, I think growth mindset is a great way of approaching it. So some of the criteria for resilience are all available in cricket. One of them, which the All Blacks mental skills coach talked about in the past, is just a love of the game. I've said this before, and I make no apologies for repeating myself. The really crucial thing is to enjoy what you do and to remember, first and foremost, perhaps remind yourself each time you go to training, each time you play it, it's a hobby, it's meant to be fun. Even guys who play it for a living have to take a step and go, hang on, I'm doing my hobby for a living. This is great. And approach it in that way. But for resilience, the things that make a big difference are that love of the game. It's also a supportive environment so that you realise you're not having to face it all on your own. Having those positive institutions around you. So in the case of Lindham Cricket Club, not just there being one or two people, but everyone saying, we've got your back, we want to help you. But also having experience of difficulties. If we want to be able to bounce back, like people often define resilience as, just like anything else, we've got to have experience having been in a difficult situation to recover from. So in our training, we might want to safely push ourselves, go out of the comfort zone, try difficult things, not be afraid of failing or getting them wrong. Because that growth mindset, you're saying, I didn't get it right this time, but by trying it, I'm on the road to getting better from that.
Yeah, it's interesting actually when you talk about the enjoyment, and I think the enjoyment obviously is key within cricket and why we play the game, and it builds a good culture within the team and within the club. What do you think we could do as a club as well to build that good culture around that good team culture around Lindham Cricket Club?
Yeah, it's of course always for individuals. You know, I've worked with so many of these clubs over the years that no one's the same. You've got, for example, ones where they'll have 6 or 7 senior teams, and people just through the numbers won't necessarily know each other that well across a whole club. There'll be others where they'll have 1 or 2 and everyone knows each other, but sometimes they still won't have that culture that they want. So I think the important thing is, if we're looking at culture and looking at environments, is to start off with thinking, what does everyone want? What does everyone want to commit to? So with that, it could be that we're saying, as a basic, everyone wants to be in a position where they feel supported and they can support others. And that, if we talk about just putting something like mental health on the agenda and getting it discussed, that can go a long way towards it. A new player or a player who has been at a club for a while will be hopefully impressed by a club saying, well, we're not just going to talk about runs and wickets and subs and nets are. We're also going to say, this is something that we love cricket, it's important to us, in some ways more important than the things we have to do in our lives. So let's make sure that this does more than just look after the game. So I think that's always got to be a key element of that, where people actually feel like people care. And caring doesn't need to be, every session talking about our feelings or anything like that. Some people, it will just be a case of just knowing someone's got their back and knowing that that's available if they need it. So yeah, that's got to be the pillar that things are built on. The trust is from there. Many people can be creative and say, well, do we talk about what our identity as a club is? Do we go forward and say, this is how we want to be defined? And my own club that I'm still involved with, it is in the same position as every other club, that things change, there's fluctuations, there's a lot of challenges, and we don't get a lot of things we don't get right. But as part of the committee there, I hope that what we do is we realise when we don't get things right, we can get it right in the future. So from a leadership perspective, we've also got to have that growth mindset, not write off our members and go, oh, they're all lazy, they don't care, they don't come to net. But actually say, no, as a club, if we talk about and be honest and say, we didn't quite get that right, we want your input, people don't actually look at you and think, oh, they don't know what they're doing. So it takes a lot to admit that you've got something wrong or you feel that you could improve. So that honesty, that authenticity is really important as well.
I think it goes back to your message as well, where you say you haven't got it right yet. You add yet onto the end, and it shows that commitment that you want to get it right for your members. And again, sort of reiterating the point that nobody is the same. Not everything works for everybody. And like you say, if you can just reiterate that point of care and that it's there if you need it, and if you don't, then you don't. But one day it might come that, again, you don't need it yet, but one day you might. So just like you say, making people relaxed in an environment where they feel that they can really open up about it.
That's it. Yeah. The biggest thing, and we could cut this conversation down to just a sentence, is people to have an intent and be bothered and care. Because the expertise and the knowledge and everything like that will flow from that. If someone's got an intent to do something, they will find out how they can improve, whether it be playing or whether they, in this case, we're talking about looking after people. But it's no good just having these nice ideas without actually saying, do you know what, we're actually going to do something. And it's so easy to maybe posture and say, oh, we'll do that, we'll plan this. Why not just dive in and do it and see what happens? Because then people are left in no doubt as to where your thoughts really do lie.
And I think as well, sorry, we're going. I remember having a talk with you. Probably it must have been about a couple of years ago now, and I think it was talking about Lancashire cricket, how they rebuilt after a period of not great success. And you talked about they had quite a hard conversation at the start of the season or start of winter training about Hardship Hero. And I forgot the other one what was mentioned, but I found that really interesting. And I was just wondering, could you remember that story? And is it okay if you, because I took so much, I can't remember the last one, but I took so much from that conversation, what you had with us. And I thought it was a great story.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's two actually linked to this. The one that you refer to, the 3 H's, was in fact Richmond Aussie rules, but there is a Lancashire one which is very connected. So for the Richmond one, they'd had 30 odd years of not winning their Premiership, and they're like a Man United over there. They've got the biggest fan base. They've got all this history. And they've become a bit of an embarrassment because they hadn't won anything for so long. Long story short, they tried some different things. And one of their attempts to get their team closer together, to actually embrace difficulties and vulnerability and actually talk, was a routine they did where they each had to stand up and share the 3 H's. One of them was a hero in their life, one of them was a highlight, and the other was a hardship. So the first 2 were okay for people, saying who their hero is, what a highlight in their life had been. That gave people, an insight into other people. That was very nice. But the real crucial one was when they started talking about their hardships and things in their lives that had been difficult. People started to share things which they'd not spoken about publicly, that they maybe kept to themselves for a long time, still was something which made them emotional. And the instinct would be that you wouldn't want to do it. That you think, oh, why do we not tell people what we actually think in those situations? Because we're scared of being mocked, and we're scared of being the one who's exposed themselves too much. The great thing about that exercise was that everyone did it. So if someone's going to laugh at someone else for expressing a vulnerability, very soon it's going to be there, and they're also going to be doing it. And what it did was show those players and the staff involved that everyone has vulnerability. Everyone is struggling with something. So when we actually acknowledge, it makes it completely common to then perhaps share that in whatever way is appropriate for people, rather than it being a shock when someone says, oh, this has been tough, because things are tough for everyone. At the moment, stuff's tough. It will be tough after, and that's not being defeatist, but it's just saying that we can get through things easier if we get some help with that. As social beings, people around us are the ones who can do that. So other things influence this, but at the end of that season, they'd won their first championship for 30 odd years. They had a year where they almost did, and then the year after they won as well. So their culture and their change, massive for that. The one with Lancashire won the county championship for 70 odd years, had a lot of one-day success in the 90s. But the group of players that Peter Moore's had in 2011, not success. And they did a similar thing. They each wrote down 3 things about each team that they valued about it. And each of those players got that thing given to them. And they could see what else thought of them. So a lot of the time when we're in male environments, we'll default to having a laugh. We'll default to maybe Mickey out of each other and those kind of things. And banter, or whatever we call it, is of course part of sport. And it's great fun. But there are some times where it helps to just kind of cut through that and look at it differently. So these players being able to see genuinely what these people thought of them, left the room thinking, they felt like they were 10 foot tall. And some of the players that were in that room we were speaking to, and they just said that set the tone for them. And of course, loads of other things happened that helped them win the county championship. Obviously, very good players and all the rest of it. But that kind of thing does help. And it just reminds them that how they interact with each other, great for team performance. But also, if that you look at that person who's got your back and has said, actually I was this and that, probably more likely to speak to them about something not working than you are someone who you don't know what they think about you. So there are 2 examples. There's so many more in sport, and they could either be used exactly as we've explained, or it could be something that's adapted, but it's all about that principle of team building and making it practical rather than just saying we've got to have a good team spirit. There are things that you can do to help that along rather than just relying on it happening automatically.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I think we'll move on to the next question. What would your advice be to any young cricketer starting out playing? So in the Dynamos, All Stars, and just above for under 9s, under 10s. My theme, I suppose, really is to enjoy it and to never forget that, and to think about how you feel when you first start playing cricket.
you first realise you love it. Whether it's when you're playing, say, All Stars or Dynamos, and you hit your first, really get hold of the ball and you hit it far, you get your first wicket or you catch, or you do a run out. Try and remember as you get older what that feels like. And then when you play cricket at junior teams, senior teams, always try and remember what it felt like the first time you realised that you loved the game. And then try to go back to that. That's all about why do I play it. But also remember that great sport for helping you with the rest of your life. People often say this about in American football. They talk about the best education they get in that sport because of all the things that it does. I think cricket's the same. It helps you problem solve, it helps you bounce back, it helps your social skills with your teammate, working together, and everything like that. So use cricket for not only playing on a Friday night or whenever it is, but also for the skills that will be developed elsewhere. But first and foremost, just grab hold of that feeling when you really get it, and try and keep that every time you play as you go.
That's brilliant advice.
Yeah, I love that, Mark. I was just going to touch on as well about holding on to enjoying it. And Will mentioned earlier about how you're not going to have success every week, and that's the reality of any sport. But cricket, especially, like I say, you can turn up, train all week, and you get a first ball duck, and you think, God, like there's your negative mindset, and you feel like your day's over. But actually, there's so much more than a teammate can bring to a team, isn't there, in terms of mentality and helping those teammates along. So even though it might not be your day, you sort of remember your first wicket, your first boundary. If you remember a good innings, even as you're going into adult cricket, hold on to that. Yes, you'll have a bad day, but it'll come. The time will come where you'll have another good day. But actually, for a team environment to have a good day, it doesn't always take you as an individual, and you can help in other ways. So you touched on earlier about the Test documentary on Amazon, and Mitch Marsh. Again, he probably knew that he wasn't going to play much on that tour, but in the rain breaks, he's playing the air drums, he's playing the air guitar, he's pretending to be a DJ, and everyone's just laughing and relaxing, and he was happy to do that because it helped his teammates. But I just really, I'm sort of waffling now, but I just wanted to reiterate the fact that you can have bad days, but you can still affect the team in a good way. So you could get a first ball duck, but you could then go and give a teammate some throwdowns and sort of say, "This is your day, mate." And again, spreading that positivity.
Yeah, I think that is it, because cricket, we get a lot of times where we say it's individuals playing a team sport, and if we want that to be like that, it can be. Now, I'm sure people have played in teams or played against teams where you see these blokes don't really like each other, and they're all playing for themselves. But then when you play in a team where you do get on and you do want to work for each other, it's a great feeling. So in those times where it's not working well for you, celebrating other people's successes is really vital and important, because, as you say, it might be their day. And then when it comes back around to being your time, then those people are going to support you as well. So you get that. But I was speaking to someone a few weeks ago, Kiwi guy. He played over here for Derbyshire for a bit, Logan Van Beek. Really interesting character. And he said something about when he's had a bad game, he always tried to think about how he could be, what his best self would do. So if he's finished the game and thinks, I got smashed everywhere, I got bowled for nothing, and I fielded badly, his temptation would be to go, just pack my bag, get off, like have a sulk, go and eat a load of ice cream, or get over it. But what he says, right, I'll try and stop myself and say, what would my best self do? So what he'll do is then say, right, go over to the guy who scored a 50 or 100 and say, well, help someone else who did a good game, and try and socialise a bit to maybe then just realise why you're there. So I've been thinking about that recently. We get caught up by going, your instinctive reaction is to do something, and you got annoyed with it, but then maybe saying, what would my self do? If I was on top form, how would I respond to that situation? And I think that's something, when we finally do play cricket, is that's going to be my main thing I'm going to focus on, how I can be best teammate possible. You're not always going to get runs and wickets. You're not always going to be the star, but you can always contribute to the team. And even stuff like you say with Marsh, running out with the drinks or he's making them laugh in the dressing room. He's not in that 11, but he's going to be the best 12th man that he can be. And that thing again of what we control, what our efforts into, that's it. Because you can't control whether you're going to be 100 or fifer, but you can say, I'm going to do everything to make myself a good teammate.
Yeah.
And then you'll get something out of the day, even if the runs and the wickets don't go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that as well, because I was listening to one of the Sky podcasts is what's on recently, and it was with Rob Key, and they asked him who was his favourite captain, who was the best captain he played under, and he said his favourite captain he played under, the best captain, was Michael Vaughan, because he went out and batted against the West Indies. First game batted, it might have been one of his test matches anyway, played against West Indies, and he was high up the order, and he said he'd faced probably 70 balls and could barely hit a ball, and he knew he batted rubbish. But then they ended up winning the test, and they came off the test, and Michael Vaughan at the end of the test said, he said, congratulations, Key, you did an absolutely amazing job for the team there. You saw off 70 balls to allow Peterson, Bell, whoever, to come over and blast that 100 or however many runs they scored. And I think it is about finding recognition of those people, because it is a team sport at the end of the day. Everyone there's all the cogs in the wheel. It's important the cogs in the wheel turn or provide that performance. And I think I enjoyed that explanation there.
Mark, I think we'll wrap it up sort of shortly. It's been really good to sort of chat to you again. I just want to finish on a sort of positive, if we can. Just you just to mention maybe your best achievement in life and in cricket, maybe. Put you on the spot a bit there.
Yeah, difficult question. I think in terms of it's all linked to what we've been talking about here, really. For me, cricket hasn't been something where I had a lot of success, certainly in recent years. When I say success, I mean in terms of like runs and wickets or all the statistics. But what I would say my biggest achievement has been is in being able to redevelop my love for it and play it on a completely new set of terms, and genuinely go into a game and just been saying there and approach it and thinking, I will enjoy it. And if I get some runs or I get some wickets, I'll enjoy it even more. But I'll find a way of doing that and actually connecting with just being a lover of cricket rather than a lover of the outcomes of cricket. So I'd say, even though I'm not really answering your question, you probably need to say some heroic acts that I've done.
No.
But I think that it's that in terms of actually just finally appreciating my talent why I play cricket, which for years I probably wasn't really sure. I was just habitual and I would have done it. And then when nice things come along, like a few wickets or some runs, then I enjoy it even more. But being able to enjoy it full stop from previously, playing cricket sometimes, I would class that as being my biggest achievement.
No, that's good. I like that, and I think it's important again just to stress that you don't have to have the hundreds or the fifers or the match-winning catches to have a highlight in the sport. I mean, in terms of mentality, I've used this in sort of job applications before. But one of our teammates was really struggling for a bit of form, and he came to me in the warm-up and said, I don't know how I'm going to score 100 again. And I just said to him, you are good at, I basically took the ability out of it, and I just said to him, think about it in a time frame. You are naturally talented, you're good enough to score hundreds. If you bat for an hour and a half, you'll just get there automatically. So I sort of took away, and that was my advice to him, and he took that away. He went on and got 135, and he was man of the match. And I still use it today because that I still hold on to that as a positive experience of something I've done in cricket, but I didn't actually do anything. So I think, again, it's just important to sort of spread that message that you can affect the game and affect yourself in a positive way by not actually doing anything.
That's it, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up there anyway, Mark. I'd just like to finish though saying it's absolutely brilliant what you're doing yourself and with opening up cricket. And as a cricket club at Linden, we're fully behind the work what you're doing. So if there's anything you need support with, then please let us know.
I will do, and I'll hope to get back to see you in person soon, whether that's this year or next. It's a lovely setting for cricket there, and I had a great time chatting to people during and after the session last time. So I wish you all well, and hope cricket comes back very soon.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Mark.